Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alice and I love to talk about money, and today we're going to talk about something super exciting, which is how I budget or how I set up a budget with super high fixed expenses. If you feel like your expenses are super high based on the income that you're taking home, this video is for you. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do love to share my experience, because I feel like a lot of the times when we talk about high fixed expenses, the general finance media or content that I consume is just like, stop, get out of it. And it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, that's the ultimate goal. But I also think that getting out of a high fixed expense situation is not an overnight, like, quick fix. It's not, you can't just watch a video of someone telling you how to get out of a high fixed expense situation or how to stop living paycheck to paycheck and then suddenly stop living a paycheck to paycheck. Like, it takes time, and I just want to show you guys how to make the most out of your time with high fixed expenses. I still think there's a lot of good you can do for your financial situation, for your money psychology. I don't think this is a wasted time for you. I think that you can definitely get some leverage and move in the right direction, even if you are not yet out of your high fixed expense phase of your life, because it happens to all of us, whether that's job loss, having a kid, moving careers, needing to take a mental health break, being in school, all these things, like buying a new house. I just feel like there's so many things that make it so that suddenly we do have high fixed expenses, and it just takes time to get out of that cycle or that time or that phase of life. So I'm here to show you guys how I set up my budget while I have high fixed expenses. Personal finance is so personal to each person, and your situation in life definitely dictates a lot of how your finances, number one, how they look and what you were given in life. So I just want to say, my husband and I, we got married a couple years ago. We have 100% combined finances. We have one car with no car payment and another car with a car payment, and we're trying to pay that off as fast as humanly possible, just because we don't want to have to owe anyone anything. So we're paying that off to his parents because they let us buy it from them because they bought a new car. We are both in college. I work part-time, 30 hours a week. My husband works full-time, and then he does school part-time while I do school full-time, if that makes sense. Oh, also, we bought a house a year and a half ago for $450,000 with a 7.5% interest rate. So definitely check out that video right here if you guys want to know how we were able to afford a high interest rate house. But yes, that's kind of the situation we're in right now. And the biggest thing that's going to happen to us is we are going to graduate in 2 months. And after we graduate, I'm getting a full-time job salary. I'm transitioning from part-time hourly to full-time salary. And my husband is going to get a big promotion at work that includes a pretty sizable raise. Hopefully. I mean, it should. I'm guessing. That's what the work said. So hopefully it happens. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We've been experiencing high fixed expenses for the last, like, on and off 18 months. I want to say it hasn't been consistent 18 months. When we get a 3 paycheck month, like January was a 3 paycheck month, and then last August was a 3 paycheck month for my husband. I get paid twice a month, so there's never like 3 Fridays in a month for me or whatever, like that kind of thing. So when he gets paid a lot on those 3 paycheck months, or when he works overtime, we definitely don't have super high fixed expenses. Just that extra money, and then also sometimes working overtime, that extra money too makes it so our expenses are so much lower than they normally are compared to our income. But again, that's not every single month. You can't bank on having a 3 paycheck period every single month, because it only really happens twice a year, I think. So yeah, 2 months out of the year, which is so awesome. I love those months. I feel loaded when we get 3 paychecks. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of our situation, and we're expecting to not have this high of fixed expenses after we graduate. But until then, I still want to try and make it work and try to do the best we can with high fixed expenses right now. I still want to try to save, try to invest, and try to pay off our car as fast as humanly possible while having a good time and trying to figure out how to have a better relationship with money. So if that's interesting to you, stick around and let's take a look at what happened in February. I'm on the budget spreadsheet right now for February. So first of all, I just want to go over kind of some logistics of this budget spreadsheet. So we budget from the 3rd of one month to the 3rd of the next month, because we pay our American Express on the 3rd, our mortgage comes out the 1st, and yeah, that's basically it. So we just wanted to make sure that we were saving and having that money ready so we can pay it off immediately when it comes out, instead of having it at the beginning of our pay period and having like all of our income roll over. It just didn't make a lot of sense. So that's what we do. And we have $881 in our starting balance for February. Now, this starting balance might not seem like a lot to you, or you might want to skip over this part, but this is actually one of the most essential parts of having financial peace when you have high fixed expenses is to be able to have a buffer in your bank account. Now we treat this money like it's not there. We cannot spend it. It's not, oh, we have $800 in our bank account, like let's go for it, let's have a nice dinner or something. No, that money is not ours. It's just there as a buffer. It started out as $1,000. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. That 881 is $0, and if bills come out, it takes it out, but then you replenish it. So we don't include the starting balance in this because, again, we don't want to treat it like money that we can spend. So let's get more into the nitty gritty of things. Sorry, I'm looking at down on my laptop. I have this right here. For income, we expected my husband's pay to be pretty normal, $2,550 some, but it ended up actually being lower because we forgot that we went to, it was a hockey game, and then we went to something else that his work sponsored, and because of that they took some money from his paycheck to pay for that, which is not surprising or anything, but we just forgot about that. So yeah, it was about $80 less than we thought, which can be pretty hard when you have high fixed expenses, because I feel like every dollar matters when you have high fixed expenses. So, and then with my paycheck, I assumed that I was going to make $900 and $800, so $1,700 total. And I brought home $923 and then $792. Then I expected to get $200 for my birthday, and then we forgot to put it in the account. And then I think my husband also took some money because he went to Winco, and you can't use your credit card when you shop at Winco, so then he used some cash. Okay, and for savings, this is the part that makes it tricky with your income. So we were like, okay, we're gonna pull out $2,000 out of savings to pay for a vacation. We ended up pulling out $3,255 from savings. We pulled out $800 from our car fund to put towards our car. And then we pulled out the rest of it, $2,500, to pay for some stuff when we go to Italy and to go home to Oregon. And that's sinking funds. So that's not necessarily income, but it is money that came into our bank account. So if we take that away for our cash flow, we actually made it $6,770, which is less than what we thought when we thought we were gonna bring home $6,993. Moving on to bills. So some of our bills are pretty consistent, some are not. Our internet's always $65, and our gas and energy has been higher recently because it's been cold, so $116. Our car insurance was $98, but that is gonna go up next month because of lifestyle creep alert. We got a second car. And water and trash is always $114, and then life insurance $179, which also includes disability insurance. And then we always assume that our power is gonna be $50, but this month it was $38. So that's pretty good. It's hard to look at bills and be like, dang, we spent over $600 on bills. That can be hard, but that is the cost of living. And that is something that I wish I knew more about before we moved into our house. I just never think about bills. I'm like, oh, they're negligible, especially when you're living in an apartment or living in college. They're pretty small, but yes, we have a house, and so they're a little bit higher. And also I feel like we just have to insure more things because we're getting older, and we have a house, and now we have 2 cars. So yeah. Okay, so now let's get to our expenses for February. So we always budget $2,927 for a mortgage, and that came out on the 1st of March. Our groceries were such a win in February. Usually we try to budget $400, and we can stick to that pretty well, but instead this month we only spent $344.88, which is such a win. So we had extra money from groceries. I feel like groceries could be something that's so hard to keep down because the cost of food just went up so much. Yeah, literally so much. So it's nice that we're able to keep our grocery bill down, and we are doing that by just being really creative and being really crafty and using our food efficiently and effectively. Okay, I get nervous to even say this, but the next line is tithing, and we do donate to our church, and we just donate in general. And I don't love including this because I get a spectrum of comments. Some from being like, if you believe in God, you're delusional. And if you donate to your church, you're delusional and you're crazy. And some people are like, oh, I love that you do that. I do that too. And other people are in the middle, like, what's that? I don't know what tithing is. Why do you donate? I just don't understand. So I just feel kind of scared because I never know what kind of comment I'm gonna get. If someone's gonna be like, you're crazy, you're cuckoo cuckoo for donating to your church. It's just kind of like a mixed bag, and I never know what kind of comment I'm gonna get. So I'm scared to be like, yes, we pay tithing. And even though we have high fixed expenses, we pay 10%. So we paid $678 of tithing this month. That also includes a donation that goes towards helping people that can't make their bills or like need food for their family. So yeah. Okay, with gas, we budget $200 a month for gas, even though we almost never hit it, but this month we did because we went on a road trip with our newer car, and our newer car has terrible gas mileage compared to our Honda Accord. But we just felt safer taking our newer car because our Honda Accord's getting pretty old. So yeah, even though we went literally on a road trip that was like 3-4 hours away, we only spent a little bit over our normal gas budget, which is super awesome. Okay, then pet care, we spent $0. Miscellaneous, every single month we budget $350 for miscellaneous because we just found that's the number that works best for us. And I will say in January, I got really scarred. We spent almost $1,000 on miscellaneous stuff, all because of all these things that we just forgot about. So, but $350 still works well for us, even though January was absolutely crazy. And we ended up returning a couple things, like a textbook I didn't need. We ended up having some money left over, which is so awesome. And then our car payment. So yes, as I explained in the background financial context section of this video, we bought a car and we're trying to pay it off as fast as humanly possible because we just don't want to owe someone money. We want to pay that debt off really fast, move on, and make sure that it's a good experience. Doing business with family can be a little bit tricky, but that's why we want to go for it. We want to pay as much as we possibly can and show that we're professional and that we're not taking advantage of anyone because they gave us a great deal on a car. So we're trying to pay it off as fast as possible. So we thought we were going to pay $750, but instead we brought $800 out of savings and we combined that. So we paid $1,500 for our car this month, which is super awesome. Oh, and the car is $10,000. So we're making headway. Next is guilt-free spending. So let's take a look. Oh, it was my birthday in February. Happy birthday to me. And we budgeted $250 and ended up spending $272. I love what Ramit Sethi says about this kind of stuff because we budgeted $250 and we thought that'd be totally fine, which it was. But you always forget about leaving a tip at a restaurant or something. We didn't forget about it. We did it, but you always forget to budget that kind of stuff. So we just overspent a little bit in this category. My husband bought a video game and we're always like, yes, video games are $70. Then you forget that there's tax. So you always just kind of forget that kind of stuff. And I need to remember that and maybe budget $10 to $15 more for each category. Okay, and then we did a 5K to support cancer research and I had a discount code for that. So it was originally supposed to be like $47, I think, but we got it down to $38, which is super awesome. Then with Valentine's Day gifts, again, you kind of just assume it's not going to be that much. We said $50, it ended up being around $56, which is not terrible, but it just kind of reminds me, yeah, you should probably budget a little bit more money, inflate it a little bit by maybe 5 or 10% just to make sure that you catch all those phantom costs. And then we have a line called Splurge. Yeah, so that's just our miscellaneous fun money that we spend, and we budgeted $100. And basically right now you're probably thinking you have super high fixed expenses, so how could you spend $100 on fun? So true. And also it's just really hard. The older I get and the more money we make, the more I'm like, I deserve to spend money and it's my money, I get to do what I want with it. And I just feel like we cannot spend less than $100 sometimes on fun. And then yes, again with travel, we pulled $2,000 out of our sinking funds, and then we pulled another like $500 so that we could buy plane tickets to Oregon and excursions and hotel. Oh, we did hotels in Italy. So yeah, which I don't really count that because you just pull out literally dollar for dollar out of your sinking funds. We saved up $10,000 to go on a trip to Italy, and we just pull that out every time we are going to buy something for that trip. So it's not necessarily like an expense per se. Okay, let's go to savings investing. So this is where it hurt a little bit. I'm like a little bit like, oh man, I wish we could have done a little bit better. We could have done a little bit more. So we have an automatic Roth IRA that takes money out of our account. It takes $75 a week. So that usually is $300 a month, and that happened because it's automated, which that's why I like automated like investments, because you don't even have to think about it. And then for savings, for emergency funds, so even though we're trying to pay off our car as fast as humanly possible, we still recognize that it's always good to be increasing our emergency fund. Currently it sits at $13,000, but we want to get to $18,000 by the end of this year. The past couple months, we've only been able to save like a couple $100s, but I still think anything counts when it comes to an emergency fund, because being $50 over versus $50 under for your budget makes all the difference. So yes, we wanted to save $250 for emergency fund and we were only able to save $100. I'm still glad and proud of us that we were able to do that, even though I wish that it could have been more. I wish that, I mean, yeah, we didn't make as much as we thought we were going to. which is definitely part of the problem. And then we spent, you know, a good amount of money, a little bit more than we should have on guilt-free spending. So that's that. Okay, so that's what happened in February. Let's set up the March budget spreadsheet together. Okay, now we are on the March budget spreadsheet. So it's a completely blank budget spreadsheet. And then we also need to change this, I think, because we had $100 left over from February. I'm going to change this to $981, which our ultimate goal is to get back up to $1,000, which we are doing slowly. Okay, so I first start with income. Now the trick with income is to make sure that you are conservative in your guesses if you do not make the same amount every single month. So my husband usually does make the same amount, so we'll just put exactly what he makes into here because he gets paid bi-weekly, but I do not always make the same amount. So I'm gonna go the conservative route, and I'm gonna say, what am I gonna get paid as if I only work 30 hours a week? Because I always tell myself like, oh, I'll be able to work more than 30 hours a week, but it doesn't usually happen. So if we go back to February, my husband usually makes $25.46. Okay, and then he is actually going to get a bonus. So bonuses can be a little bit tricky because what your company gives you for your bonus does not equal what money you actually get to take home. I feel like the tax is so high on bonuses, which makes sense, but it's just really hard to know exactly how much you think you're gonna actually take home. So I asked him about it a little bit, and he thinks that he will probably take home around $900 on the conservative side, and we'll just be happily or pleasantly surprised if it's more than that. So let's do 900 for that, and I'll change this to bonus. And then for my paycheck, I think I'm gonna go conservative and say, oh, I think if I work 30 hours a week, that will be $723. So let's put that. Or I think it's, yeah, $723 looks great. And then we're not expecting any like miscellaneous money or getting paid back. We are going to take money out of savings. So let's put that. We want to buy some excursions for a trip, and we already have the money saved up for it. We saved up $10,000 for a trip to Italy. We spent $4,000 on flights, $2,000 on travel and hotels, and now we are just doing the fun stuff. So let's do $1,000 for excursions. And obviously this is a kind of thing where if we pull more out of savings because we decided to plan more of our trip, that's totally fine too. So I start with income because in order to budget, you need to know how much you are bringing home just to see what we're working with and trying to be conservative. So next I go to bills. Now some of these bills are going to be the same every single month, and some of them are going to change a little bit. Again, with this, I try to be conservative in the sense that sometimes our gas bill is low, but I'm not gonna try and bank on it being low and guessing how much gas or energy we used. So also I like to look through our emails. A lot of the times we get emails that we forget about from the city telling us how much our electricity or our utility bills are gonna be in general. So I try to find those just to make sure that there's really no surprises. So for internet, that is always $65. We did get an email saying that our gas/energy is gonna be $114 this month. Car insurance. Okay, so this is something that has really helped recently, is that instead of just waiting to be surprised and trying to remember what we want to budget for, we're actually keeping a list of reminders. So I'm gonna go to the reminders for the budget. And these are things that we just have to remember that we want to include in our budget. So for bills, our car insurance is going to momentarily or temporarily increase to $207. And then it is gonna go back to like $150 because we bought it. And then just the way the timing worked out of the pay cycle for car insurance, it's just going to be more this month and then less the next month. So it's going to be $150 or $148 going forward after this month. But this month it is $207, and I would hate if we had forgotten that it was $207 and then had to take money from savings and not save as much as we wanted to, kind of like what happened last month in February. So let's put $207, which is so high, but that's okay. Water and trash is always $114. Life insurance, I forget, there's like an exact amount. $179.16. I never know how much our power is going to be. Also, it is not like we're not using AC, and also our house is super energy efficient. So I'm just going to put $50 again. I don't know what it's going to be. It's probably going to be lower than $50, but we'll see. So that looks pretty good for bills. That is $729 for bills. That is so crazy to think that one of my paychecks just goes to paying our bills, just goes to paying internet and utilities, car insurance, life insurance. That is so insane to me, but that's okay. It's not going to be forever. I'm going to make more money someday, but that's what we're working with right now. Okay, next on to expenses. So I like to do expenses as things that we pretty much have to buy and we can bank on us buying. It's not entertainment, it's not going out to eat, it's just really things that we need to sustain our day-to-day life. So our mortgage is $29.27, which is pretty high. I'm pretty sure I did the math, and a normal take-home pay with our mortgage is 42% of our take-home pay. So that's pretty high. That's why our fixed expenses are so high. So we have to cut in other places, which basically means we keep our grocery budget to $400 a month. And I used to think that was high because I talked to my mom and she talked about how much she used to spend when we were little on groceries. Now, obviously that was a long time ago. That was like 20 years ago. And she was like, oh, I spent $400 a month as a family or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so low. But now I'm like, inflation, it's all good. And $400 is actually super good for groceries for a couple, I think. Donations, we are going to be doing 10%. So that will be $744, but let's do $750 just for an extra donation. Gas, we're always gonna budget $200. We don't want to get into the situation where we can't drive somewhere because we don't have the money to pay for the gas. So we always wanna put a little bit more into gas just so we have the flexibility and the freedom to be able to go places. That's just one thing that we don't want to miss out on. Now, we almost never hit that 200, except for in February we did because we went on a road trip, but we're not doing anything crazy this month with driving our cars. We just want to make sure that that's something that doesn't hold us back, that we can't go to a Sunday dinner or we can't hang out with friends because we don't have the money for gas, if that makes sense. So, and then also makes me super happy with high fixed expenses. If you ever have a budget line that comes in under what you budgeted for, that makes all the difference when you have really high fixed expenses because every dollar matters. And so if you do spend $50 less on your groceries or $50 less on your gas, that means it's a $50 that can go towards something else. So I find that I love that part of budgeting, when you underspend on something and you're like, oh, I have extra money now. It really feels like free money, even though it's not. It's just money that you didn't spend. So with pet care, I'm gonna say $25 to buy some litter because I don't know if they need it, but that's another thing where I don't wanna be like, oh, we can't buy it this month because we didn't budget. I just wanna proactively do that. And again, if we don't spend it, that's extra money for us. Miscellaneous, I'm always gonna do $350. So if you have really, really high fixed expenses in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 100, having a miscellaneous or unexpected line in your budget has made all the difference for us, because if something does come up that's $100, like buying a textbook, anything comes up where you're like, oh my gosh, we need to spend some money, it doesn't completely derail you, and it just creates more flexibility in your budget. Because I find when we have super high fixed expenses, I feel really restricted sometimes. I feel like I can't spend any money and really just fearful of things happening to us. But if you have the unexpected or that miscellaneous budget line, you are covered. It's essentially like a mini emergency fund per month. If anything happens, you can use that $350 for it. I think when we first moved into our house, we thought $150 or $200 was good, but slowly over time we realized $350 is definitely the sweet spot. And then our car payment, we want to stretch ourselves this year. I think paying off debt is such a worthy thing to do with your money and with your time. And so we want to stretch again this month and pay off another $1,500 of our car. And if we pay another $1,500 off of our car, then we'll be our car will be 30% of the way there. So let's look at first. So we first started saving for a car, and that's why it says savings car $800, because we're like, oh, we're gonna save for a car, then we're gonna buy one at the end of the year. But then we had an offer we can't refuse. So, I mean, we could have. We always have our agency, but now we have it under debt, and right now we have $1,500 in there. And if we add another 15, that'll be 30% of the way there, which is super exciting. I'm very excited to have our car paid off. I literally can't wait. Having a paid off car in your garage, there's no feeling like it. It's amazing. And then after you do your income, your bills, and your expenses, that's when you really start playing a balancing give and take game, where you kind of have to try things out, put some money there, realize it's too much, take some from here, put it over there. So I would not tie yourself and write this in stone. Just let it be flexible, let your budget be a little bit flexible, and look for what you can do. So I go up here and it says left a budget is $1,558. Oh, and I was like, wow, that's really high. But then I remembered we took money out of sinking funds, which again is why it's confusing to include sinking funds sometimes in your budget, because it conflates what you think you are making and what you're actually spending on guilt-free. So you guys can see the guilt-free spending category, and then we also have our savings category. So Our Roth IRA will take $300 out of it this month. Oh, and let's put vacation immediately. Travel. So I don't feel like we have this conflated amount of money that we can spend, because I would hate to spend our travel money on something else, because I feel like it's just money that we're taking that's coming into our bank account. So that gives it a more realistic. We have 300 there and travel is 1,000. That means we have $258 to work with. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so basically, this is where you feel the squeeze, where you're trying to save money and you're trying to enjoy life. It can be really disheartening to look at your money saving and being like, oh my gosh, how can we even enjoy life? Okay, wait, I totally forgot some of our income. We did not put my birthday money in last month, so we get to do that. 145, that makes a huge difference. And now we have $403 left to work with. That is huge. Okay, wow. I was looking at that and I'm glad we went through that together, you guys. Looking at that money, being like $258 left to split between saving and guilt-free spending. That is so stressful. That's how it feels when you have super high fixed expenses, is to be like, oh, you have to really make those decisions, those hard decisions on what you're gonna spend your money on. When we have a 3 paycheck month or we come across a little windfall of money, budgeting is so much easier. You're like, money over there, it's all great. But when you do not have that much money to budget compared to your fixed expenses and your bills, you have to make those hard decisions. That can be really frustrating and also can make budgeting super overwhelming. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with your budget right now, you can just take a little break, take a little breather, do a little meditation, come back, try to make those choices that are really important, that are really helpful for the future, but also can make it budgeting a little less fun, because having less money when you're budgeting is not as fun. Oh, okay. So this is where the balancing act comes in. We have to do a little bit of give and take. Let's go back to the budgeting reminders to make sure I'm hitting everything. Let's just try and put some of these things down and then take them off as we see if we can't afford them, if that makes sense. So let's say Connor's birthday. I want to start saving for that. So I would love to be someone who can put thousands of dollars in a sinking fund for Christmas and both of our birthdays, but we just really haven't been at a place where we can do that. We kind of have to do smaller birthdays, which is totally fine. There's a time and a place for doing huge birthdays, and right now I just don't really feel like that's something we can do. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Okay, $50 there. Let's put just everything. I would love to save $250. I know we wanted to do that in February and we couldn't, but I would love to see if we could. So I'm just gonna ignore the left to budget part, put things down, and then delete them as I see fit to try and get it to be the actual money to get this left to budget section 0. So let's do that. Golf, let's just put $100 for golf. Okay, golf, travel excursions, clothing for vacation. $100. Okay, so yeah, right now we're under, but I can go back and I can kind of jimmy rig things to fit within our budget. Okay, and then I know we like to have a miscellaneous splurge fund, and then I know my husband wanted sunglasses. So this is what we have right now, and currently we're $221 over the budget. No fear, we can still change this. I just wanted to get everything down on the budget spreadsheet so I can see what we want and what's actually possible. And this is the part where you do have to make those trade-offs, really understand your priorities, and just find what works best for you, even though you can't just buy everything you want to. So let's take a real quick look-see. Maybe we could go without, we could do $200 and then $50 for my husband's birthday. And I know you guys watching would probably make the decisions differently. That's the part about personal finance, is that it really is personal, but that's what we're doing. Playing golf this many times is probably unrealistic, especially because we're really busy right now. So I'm gonna say, let's say $60. And if it ends up being more, hopefully we don't spend everything of our unexpected budget line. And that's honestly the part about having high fixed expenses, is that you are hoping that you don't spend as much money as you have budgeted for, that you can have that wiggle room. If you guys saw what I spent in February, we went like $5, $10, $15 over just because we forgot those little phantom costs, but we'll try really hard to stick because we are feeling the burn, we're feeling the squeeze of having high fixed expenses right now. So clothing for vacation, our vacation is in a few months and I think I could wait to buy this. So let's just not do it. Oh, we're $6.52 short. We could also include sunglasses on our splurge, or we could make that $75 and then $25 there. Okay, we're still $7 over. So what if we put $70? We're still $1, which is not that big of a deal to be $1. I mean, I know we're gonna get $147 for my birthday, so it's just best to not plan to spend more than you're actually gonna make. So now let's look to see if we spent all this, what our fixed expense percentage would be for this next month. If everything goes according to plan with our spending and our saving and our income, not including money that we're taking out of sinking funds / the money that we're paying for our vacation from our sinking funds, our fixed expenses, oh my gosh. So our expenses are 81% and then our bills are 9.6%. So yeah, we are at that 90% fixed expenses mark. And part of me is like, that's so terrifying. And the other part of me is like, you're paying off your debt. That's so worthwhile. It's not gonna last forever. The other part of me is like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening. So this is what we're gonna do for the month of March. And yeah, it's gonna be lean. Yeah, it's gonna be tight. We're gonna have to watch our spending. We're basically gonna have a de facto low spend, no spend month, essentially. We can spend a little bit on fun stuff, but yeah, that is what our fixed expenses are gonna be for the month of March, 90%. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me today as we look back on what we spent in February and budgeted or set up a budget for March with me. I know it is scary to have really high fixed expenses, and obviously the ultimate goal is to get out of it, but as of right now, we still have to wait a couple months, and till we get our promotions, we have to wait 6 months until we can pay off the car. Like, you can only do things so fast, and so this is where we're at right now. The first step is acceptance, and then we are going to make it better and we're going to get out of the situation. But this is what we're doing right now while we have the high fixed expenses. I hope that this helped you guys feel more empowered and take this time while you have high fixed expenses to still make your financial situation better. You don't have to throw your hands up in the air and give up. You can still make progress with your money relationship, your money psychology, and on your budget spreadsheet. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.